Launceston is the haunted capital of Cornwall, with the duchy's most haunted house, most haunted castle, most haunted churchyard, and most haunted hotel, all sitting in this historic town. It's also home to Cornwall's most famous ghost story, one which was so celebrated back in the day that Daniel Defoe, author of Robinson Crusoe, published a version of this tale, as did Charles Dickens in May 1867 in his magazine All the Year Round. Like the horrifying account set on Foy Moor, this tale comes straight from an eyewitness account. One written by Reverend John Ruddle, rector of St Mary Magdalene Church during the 17th century, and a man we know is real because his memorial tablet hangs on his old church's south wall. One Sunday morning after Mass, Ruddle was invited to dinner at the home of a local worthy, Mr Bligh of Botathan House, near the village of South Petherwin. Whilst there, he was told that Bligh's son Sam had fallen into a terrible depression, which nothing could shake him from. Would Ruddle, it was asked, speak with the young lad and get to the bottom of his problems? Ruddle said he would. The explanation Sam gave for his mood surprised the clergyman, for the reason he suffered such misery was on account of being haunted by a ghost on the way to and from school every day. The ghost even had a name. Sam recognised it as being Dorothy Dingley, a woman from the village who died some 8 years earlier. Her appearing each morning and late afternoon terrified the boy. John Ruddle agreed to walk with Sam to school the next morning. To his astonishment, the tale was proved true, because Dorothy did indeed appear to the pair. Ruddle was rendered speechless by shock, but he set out the following day, determined to talk with the ghost. Now later, fanciful retellings have him armed with holy water and pentacles and rowing sticks and all kinds of unlikely ghost-busting tools. However, his own account mentions only a small dog, a spaniel, which, he says, barked and ran away as the spectrum passed by, whence it is easy to conclude that it was not our fear or fancy which made the apparition. He also detailed the way Dorothy moved. Not like a person walks, he said, but a kind of gliding, as children upon ice or as a boat down a river, which punctually answers the description the ancients give of the motion of these lemures. Ruddle asked Dorothy to explain her presence and why she tormented Sam so. She replied, quote, in a voice neither audible nor very intelligible. Nevertheless, she answered the questions to Ruddle's satisfaction. He then commanded her to move on, which she agreed to do. Like any good priest hearing confession, John Ruddle kept Dorothy's words to himself. Yet other people haven't been so reticent, and so we learn she was an unmarried mother dying in childbirth at around the time Sam's elder brother fled Cornwall. The implication being that the older lad seduced and ruined the poor woman before abandoning her completely. According to one version I've read, Dorothy felt she couldn't pass over to the other side before confessing to a clergyman what was then considered a grave sin, giving birth out of wedlock. Only once this was done was her spirit able to find peace. But there's a second, darker version of this tale, one shared by another vicar, the Reverend Robert Stephen Hawker, who was up at Morwenstow during the 19th century. Hawker isn't explicit. This was the Victorian era after all, yet he says enough to allow our imagination to fill in the blanks. Hawker suggests Sam's brother forced himself on poor Dorothy, who then fell pregnant with his child. Again, she died in labour. Again, the elder brother fled Cornwall. But Dorothy's motives for haunting young Sam weren't a need to publicly confess her sins, but to force Sam's brother into publicly confessing his. Only when the older lad owned up to what he'd done and sought forgiveness from Dorothy's ghost did she stop tormenting his family. By the way, as an appendix to this tale, I should tell you that Dingley was likely a name made up by John Ruddle to protect the identity and therefore reputation of the slighted party in this affair. The real name was Durant, Dorothy Durant, and the smallest research proves that she also really existed. Indeed, the Durants were residents of Botathan itself before the Blythes moved in. Meanwhile, John Ruddle features in a second local ghost story, one sometimes set at Trebercy, a tiny hamlet west of Lanson, and sometimes at Treberley on the road to Callington. In days gone by, people used to dance atop trees. Yes, believe it or not, the canopies of large elms were often pollarded, that is, the crown clipped flat, and then surrounded by poles with a platform built on top. The most famous example was in the village of Morton Hampstead on Dartmoor, where tables and chairs were set for feasting, and up to 30 people could party. Well, a similar tree had to be cut down at Treberley on the Reverend Ruddle's instructions. Why, you may ask? Because a young woman drunk on scrumpy fell from the elm, died as she hit the ground. But that wasn't the end of this maid, not by a long shot, and she continued to dance there. Her ghost anyhow, which frightened those travelling by so much that man and horse alike began avoiding the road, posing a huge problem, it being the main highway between Launceston and the port of Saltash. And so John Ruddle's ghost-laying expertise was called on again to banish the spectre and restore peace to the region. Ruddle did just that, and to be certain, had the tree cut down too, to ensure the dancing phantom wouldn't return for a curtain call.